We like to think we know our towns, the familiar streets, the friendly neighbours, the quiet evenings when nothing ever seems out of place. But what happens when the scariest things aren't just in your imagination, but standing right behind you? In today's video, you'll hear 3 true stories, encounters with something or someone no one could ever explain. From eerie mannequins deep in the forest to a strange man luring you down a deadly alleyway to the moment darkness gets closer than ever when the predator steps up behind your little brother. Don't look away, because by the time you realize what's happening, it might already be too late. Story 1. The Mannequin House and the Thing That Can't Be Explained. I never thought a simple trip to buy a horse would leave me with one of the most haunting memories of my life. This happened about 5 or 6 years ago when I was still living in Adair County, Kentucky, a quiet area surrounded by endless stretches of horse farms. My mum is a horse lover. That summer she found a horse listed for sale in Lawrenceburg, a few hours away. Out of curiosity, my younger brother and I decided to tag along. We were even more excited because the region was known for the local legend of the hillbilly beast, a Bigfoot-like creature that some Kentuckians claim to have seen in the woods. We drove through empty country roads, hauling an empty trailer behind our SUV to pick up the horse. With about 5 minutes left in the drive, I sat in the back seat, scanning the trees on either side, hoping to spot something mysterious. But what I saw was something I could have never prepared for. A run-down, tilted house appeared on the right side of the road, and in the front yard were at least 20 mannequins. Some were lying on the ground. Some were propped up against the house and a small shed nearby. But two of them made my blood freeze. One was a full-size female mannequin, bound tightly to a tree right next to the road, close enough that if I rolled down the window and reached out, I might have been able to touch it. The other was a baby mannequin, but it had been nailed to the trunk of a tree with rusted nails, as if someone had mounted it there long ago. Both were decaying, peeling, covered in moss and rot, like they'd been sitting there for decades. My mum slammed on the brakes. The 3 of us sat in complete silence, just staring. What I remember most clearly, the main house looked old and falling apart, but the shed next to it was newly built, and all over its walls were sloppy red painted symbols, satanic looking symbols drawn in circles and jagged shapes. The air felt heavy, like time stopped for a moment. We left quickly. No one said a word until we reached the horse seller's house, a man named James. When my mum mentioned the house with all the mannequins about 5 minutes back, James frowned. No, I just drove that road this morning. Didn't see anything like that. Are you sure you came the right way? We were sure. After we bought the horse, Mum took a different route home. She said she didn't want to see that place again. But a few days later, my curiosity got the better of me. I pulled up the area on Google Maps, and what I saw chilled me. There was no house, no mannequins, just an empty lot overgrown with knee-high grass. I know what I saw. We all saw it. 3 people don't hallucinate something that strange at the same time. But the thing that's kept me up at night for years isn't the fact that the house disappeared. It's the question that still echoes in my head. What if a few of them weren't mannequins? Story 2. The Man and the Trap in the Alley. I'm not the kind of person who usually gets caught up in weird or dangerous situations. I was a slightly overweight quiet guy, kept to myself, didn't draw much attention. But when I was 19, living in a small town called Mobile, Kentucky, there was one time I almost didn't come back. My family had come down from Michigan to visit for my birthday. The next morning, we planned to meet at a Hardee's in town. As usual, I arrived early, standing outside the door in the chilly morning air. That's when a man appeared from around the corner. He looked rough, greasy hair, dirty clothes, holding a dark bottle of liquor with no label. I figured he was just going to ask for the time, or maybe a couple bucks. But instead of walking past, he stopped and struck up a conversation. People in small towns are friendly, so I didn't think much of it. He asked what school I went to, then said he'd seen me at a party once. I'd never been to any party in my life. When he found out I liked video games, he started talking about Dungeons and Dragons, old gaming friends, and the trippy experiences they'd had together. But slowly, the story took a darker turn. He mentioned losing all his friends after getting into hard drugs. His voice got softer, sadder, like he just wanted someone to listen. Then he offered me a swig from his bottle. It was 10 a.m. "Want to go for a walk?" he asked. I hesitated, then thought, "Hey, a few steps won't hurt." We started walking through quiet side streets, too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you feel watched. 10 minutes passed. I realised we'd wandered into the oldest part of town. Abandoned houses, shattered windows, peeling paint like dead skin. Suddenly, he pointed to a dark, unlit house and said, "2 girls live here. Super easy. Want to go meet them?" My whole body went cold. We were standing at the mouth of a narrow alley. It was dark. And his eyes weren't friendly anymore. "I should get back. My family's probably waiting," I said, trying to sound casual. He didn't back off. "Then help me real quick. Just need to move a pool table into my truck. It's just back here." He pointed deeper into the alley. I stepped back. "No thanks," I said firmly. That's when he slid his hand into his coat. I saw his fingers wrap around something solid. My heart was pounding. My legs were shaking. Then my phone rang. It was my stepmom. I answered immediately, speaking loudly like I was mid-conversation. Turned around and walked fast. I heard his footsteps behind me. 3 blocks. I didn't look back. I just kept walking, heart thudding with every gust of wind behind me. Finally, I burst into the Hardee's. My family was already there. I sat down trembling, sweating like crazy, even though it was freezing outside. I don't know what he wanted, robbery, assault, or worse. But one thought has haunted me ever since. If I had stepped into that alley, I might have disappeared, like I never existed at all. Story 3. The shadow behind my little brother. I grew up in a small town in northern Kentucky, the kind of town where everyone knows everyone, where there's only one church, one football field, and an old Kroger store. No buses, no malls, no strangers. It was so peaceful. I used to think nothing truly bad could ever happen here. I was 16 when it happened. It was a Friday night. I was home babysitting my 9-year-old brother, a mischievous but insanely smart kid. We were playing Super Smash Bros. On the GameCube, locked in a brutal brother versus brother match. Then the landline rang. My little brother picked up and came back a minute later. "It's Austin, the new kid who moved in next door. He's at the football field with his parents. Wants to come play, but his mum won't let him walk home alone. Can we go get him? I hesitated. The match was heating up, and I didn't feel like pushing through a crowd of sweaty people at the stadium. But he kept begging. Eventually I gave in. It was dusk. We walked down the main road toward the football field at the bottom of the hill. The whole town must have been at the game because the streets were eerily empty. Halfway there, a yellow SUV pulled up across the street and stopped suddenly. A man stepped out. I glanced at him. He looked to be in his 40s, tall and bony, with a sharp rodent-like face and a weird half-smile on his lips. I didn't think much of it, probably just another dad going to the game. But as we continued walking, I started to hear footsteps. I turned around. The man was following us, and he wasn't walking past like a normal person would. A chill crawled down my spine. He was only a few steps behind, keeping pace. Not gaining, not falling back, just staying with us. I gently placed a hand on my brother's back and whispered, "One a race winner gets to pick the next game." We picked up speed. So did he. I looked over my shoulder again. He was reaching out. His hand was inches from my brother's shoulder. And that smile, that twisted grin, his eyes lit up like a predator closing in. I grabbed my brother by the shoulders and pushed him forward. The stadium lights appeared ahead. If we could just get to the entrance, there would be people. We'd be safe. But the man was running now. I could hear his footsteps pounding the pavement like war drums. My heart was going to explode. "Run!" I yelled. We sprinted toward the glow of the stadium. We reached the stone arch at the entrance, and suddenly the crowd came into view. Adults, teenagers, loud voices, the smell of cigarettes in the air. I turned back. The man had stopped, right where the shadows ended, breathing heavily, eyes locked on me and my little brother. Then he turned, walked back the way he came, climbed into his SUV, and drove away. We found Austin and waited until the game ended, so his parents could drive us home. I didn't tell anyone, not because I was trying to hide something, but because I didn't even know how to explain what had just happened. But one thing I know for sure, that man wasn't there for football. And if I hadn't looked back, if I hadn't thought of that race idea, my brother might have vanished forever. And the thing that still haunts me is that smile. 3 stories, 3 quiet towns, and 3 moments that came this close to becoming tragedies no one could undo. What makes them terrifying isn't the presence of ghosts or monsters. It's the fact that they were real, and the thing watching you doesn't always knock. Sometimes it just stands a few steps behind you smiling. If you've ever experienced something strange, haunting, or impossible to forget, share your story in the comments. Because sometimes the only thing keeping you safe is telling it before it's too late. Thanks for watching, and remember, don't look back when you're alone.